Genes are the building blocks of life. They're found in each cell of your body, and they contain the information that tells your body how to grow, what type of cells to form, such as muscle or skin, and how those cells should function. Genes are made up of DNA, a long molecule made up of 4 different bases. The sequence for each gene determines which proteins will be produced by a given cell. In The Selfish Gene, Richard Dawkins proposed that genes are the most important things in nature. He argued that DNA is a self-replicating molecule, and because it has no way of knowing if it will exist through more than one generation, it acts selfishly by trying to ensure its survival through as many generations as possible. In other words, DNA wants to live forever. And if DNA can't do it on its own, because it dies when we die, then at least some part of us should survive after death so that our genes may live on through them. The DNA molecule is composed of 2 strands that are twisted around each other to form what looks like a ladder. Chromosomes are the packages for DNA, and they contain all of an organism's genes. The human genome contains about 23,000 genes. A population is a group of organisms that live in the same area and have similar characteristics, such as size or color. So why does it matter? Well, if you want to understand how evolution works and why some traits are more common than others, like brown eyes, you need to know how these traits spread through populations over time. Genes are selfish because they want to ensure their survival. Genes are selfish because they want to ensure their reproduction. Genes are selfish because they want to ensure their function, which is often achieved through protein production, but not always so, and sometimes proteins have no function at all. The first is codominance, which means that 2 alleles express themselves together and do not cancel each other out. For example, if you have blue eyes with brown eyes, then both traits are expressed in your phenotype. The second type is incomplete dominance, where one trait dominates, but there's still some evidence for the other trait showing up in your phenotype. For example, when a red and white 4 o'clock plant is crossed, the entire first generation becomes pink. Genes are made up of DNA, which is the chemical that carries information from one generation to the next. In order to pass on this information, genes need a body in which they can reside indefinitely, or at least until their host dies. In other words, they must find an organism with a long lifespan so they can live long enough for reproduction, which means passing on their genetic material and then continue living after reproduction has occurred so they can continue reproducing themselves through their offspring's offspring. We now know that genes are much more complex than we thought they were. They can be selfish, but they also have other functions besides making proteins. Genes can regulate when and where they will be expressed, which is important for the survival of the organism as well as its offspring. Genes that allow adaptation to nature are selected and spread.